Hey guys, back from Twitchcon with another video. First off, thank you guys so much for 2K subs. You guys are insane, like seriously. Today we're going to be doing a self-review and retrospective look at Bumpa and I's games from the grand finals at Twitchcon, where we placed 38th. Let's hop right into it. Alright, so this is game one, and I'm just showing you the first clip that we see of us on screen. This is after our rotates, which was pretty mediocre in terms of getting chip damage on us, getting heals, and not really having the most amazing loadout. But what we do have is mats. So what happened was we landed Pleasant, just like we normally do. We disengaged against Envy, went to the shadow zone under the haunted house, and rotated to the soccer field. We realized it wasn't looted, it wasn't farmed. We ended up farming that up, got really good mats, rotated up the tilted / shifty hill, the one in between those two POIs, and then the circle moved again, and we glided into the ravine where you can see us right here. We did a little bit of repositioning to get to the position we're at right now, but basically from here we saw a lot of fighting. We were trying to get chip damage, but we're not in the greatest position to get any damage done because we're kind of blocking ourselves with the mountain goat. We're really low on the mountain goat, number one, so we can't really see low ground that great. We're on a mountain goat, so obviously we can't see behind us, but then there's the ravines and there's a bunch of mountains in between us, so we really can't see too much in terms of getting shots. But what we can see is this loot down here where Yo-Yo Keep It Up and Vinny are. There's a bunch of loot down there. A lot of people dived on this loot, and we definitely tried to take advantage of that by shooting them, but we didn't end up getting those kills. People were really good at blocking themselves off, so it was not at all like we are used to, where people are relatively slow at blocking themselves up. We might have gotten like a few hits on people, but we didn't get any kills. Eventually though, this looked very attractive. All that loot down on the ground, nobody really claimed, so we ended up, right before the circle started moving, we ended up going for it, and we took probably a little bit of damage for it, and we didn't really get that much loot, so it wasn't that worth. But the big thing though is you can see that the zone is right inside of this ravine. It's a small ravine. You'd be really lucky to stay inside of this ravine, so we aren't really prepared to go up the hill. So let's look at the zone. Alright, so right here you can see where the zone kind of ended up, and we can see it's going over the hill to where Hysteria is, and you can see actually us down below in the ravine right there. That's where we were, and you see the zone's going over the mountain. You can see some stairs being built up over here on the right side, in the bottom right. That's where we end up trying to come up. But I end up getting taken out. You can actually see right here in the feed that 72 hours takes me out. But Bumpa gets away. He gets up the hill right where Hysteria is looking in the bottom right, and eventually dies by himself. He does get a kill, which is really good. But let's take a look at the specific mistake that I made, that I guess both of us made, trying to get up this hill. Alright, so we ended up in some sort of position like this where we were both together, but there was a lot of players around us since they all wanted to try to go for that loot, and we needed to head up this hill. So our idea was to come out and then end up double ramping like this, and that's what we did. But what happened was we started double ramping, and immediately somebody was able to sneak in through one of the sides because we were not covering our sides like this or like this. Like, both sides need to be covered, and otherwise you're easily able to get in. So 72 just somehow got in, got right behind me, popped me, and then like got away from Bumpa. I think Bumpa was behind me, and 72 was able to easily just block him out and continue using my own ramp. So the moral of the story is, if you're double ramping, don't forget that you're leaving holes, right? The typical thing that people practice is going straight, right? And, you know, blocking yourself off, and also just like doing the turtle out and blocking on the side where you know people are going, and then also having your teammate come back behind, who's following you behind, and covering everything else off, you know? So when you're double ramping, it's just as important to make sure you're covering your sides as going straight as we're typically used to. Alright, so this is game 2, and we end up dying to Envy in an early engagement, which I think that we probably should not have taken. So there's 2 key points that I want to talk about, but first let's look at our setup. We don't really have shields. This is already after a little bit of fighting, but we didn't have shields going into this. We probably had equal mats to Envy, and our positioning was equal, right? Because we both started the fight on either side of gas station. We pushed into each other on top of a gas station, and then Envy decides to disengage towards Modern. But there's 2 key points, right? The first one was deciding to engage at all, right? We knew the storm was coming. We knew the next zone was far. We knew we didn't have that great mats because we kind of split Pleasant, and we didn't really have time to farm cars because Envy, both of us were kind of like, you know, trying to zone each other out. So when we kind of split like that, we don't really get the full advantages of taking Pleasant to ourselves. So that first point, probably not worth to take this fight at all, given that the storm's on our back, the storm's far, and we didn't really get a great amount of stuff out of Pleasant for both of us, for either of us, right? The only thing we really do get from this is kills for points. But the second point is, after we engage over gas station, Envy decides to fall back to modern, and we have a kind of stalemate where we're on the high ground, we have a better position than them, and they're on the low ground and they have a worse position than us, and the storm is coming. So we're on a timer, and Envy really can't move without getting punished hard, right? Because if they move, then they're going to waste mats, but because we're going to be able to shoot them. But at the same time, for us, Envy could just sit there and we can just get screwed in this, because the storm is going to come. So we have an opportunity here on high ground to just kind of glide away. I think that's what we should have done. Instead, we kind of dive on them because we're less patient than them. They have more experience. And the fight itself, Lanad does a really good job at keeping me the support player in this situation, because Bumpa was on high ground fighting Skatch. So Lanad does a really, really good job at keeping me occupied. I can't fire up on Skatch. And basically it turns into 2 1v1s, which isn't the most ideal situation for both of us, because basically then it's just mechanical versus mechanical. And we end up both making mechanical mistakes, which ends up that Lanad and Skatch and Envy take us out. So that's the end of that. Alright, so going into game 3, let's briefly touch on the drop itself, because this is the first game that we really diverted from our normal doghouse gas station split based on what we saw Envy was doing in the first 2 games. So we noticed that Envy is gliding mostly west side and taking tree and blue garage off the start, and then moving towards blue, and then trying to get to brick, but it depends on what we do. If we're at brick, they cross to modern and basement, and that's why we had that engagement at the gas station last time. So this game I tried to steal basement from them before they end up crossing, because I think that we could get basement, dog, gas, shithouse, and also brick. So all that would leave them with is the west side houses and possibly modern if they decide to cross. I was really scared just in this game and all the rest of the games that they would try to punish me for doing this split, because Bumpa's going to doghouse still and I'm going to basement, and if they noticed that, they could both drop on modern, or one person drop basement with me and 50-50 me, and the other guy play modern and then push me afterwards. So I was worried about that, but they decided not to do that. They seemed to be cautious players and they didn't want to do any RNG based fights in the beginning, so that was good. But I was surprised that they never punished me, because I did this the rest of the games. The adjustment that they actually made was they would, instead of dropping blue garage, or maybe it was the player who dropped tree, they went brick first, and that made it so that we basically split Pleasant completely. But this first time that we did this, it actually made them back up, because they didn't get the loot that they needed. They just backed up into Haunted House and just left us. So that's the kind of meta in customs about drops. People are always complaining about being contested and whatever, but these metas develop in the tournaments themselves. So I think that's really cool. Alright, so this is the end of game 3, and basically the setup here was good. We ended up rotating through Fatal, getting into a little scrap that got third-partied, so we didn't really spend too many mats, and we just kind of double ramp glided out and rotated into a Mountain Goat. But we kind of had the same problems as game 1, where we weren't able really to find shots, we weren't really able to do too much damage or find any kills. So we actually see right here, you can see this in the background, we gave up our Mountain Goat to get in the zone, and we're at a decent height 1x1. We're able to find shots on people, but we never got a kill. So we decided to delay the rotating in favor of trying to find kills, and this really backfired for me, and I made a critical mistake, and we'll see what that is. Alright, so we were something like this, and the zone is moving directly in front of me right now. Or it's going to move there. And we know there's a bunch of teams like right here, there's a team on the hill, and there's a bunch of teams already positioned to go for zone. It's going to go over that mountain, I believe, but we decided that it's not a huge deal to get out. I don't think it's going to go over in this specific one yet. But yeah, so my mistake was we decided to delay rotating into the zone, and we wanted to go for kills. So I actually found somebody like down here, somebody was trying to rotate in, and I end up trying to go ahead and fight him. I think I make like a peek box or something like this, and I try to fight him over the edge, but I don't cover myself well, so I end up getting beamed from up on top of that mountain. And you just have to be so diligent in these customs when there's 60-70 people in these final zones. You have to be really, really diligent about whenever you're going for a kill, make sure you're covering yourself, and even like make sure you have a teammate like holding this edit or something like that so you can get this kill, because yeah, like even this is really exposed from a lot of different angles. I got beamed down to probably 2 HP or something like that, and Bumpa dropped me some minis. The storm started coming. I didn't realize the storm was coming. Tried to take a mini. I think I get one off, and I try to take a second one. I don't realize the storm's coming, and I die in the storm. And Bumpa ends up getting 1 kill, but not, I mean, obviously not enough to get a thing, and he ends up dying in the push up the mountain. Alright, so there wasn't really any good clips to show how the rotate was in game 4 or where we were positioned or anything like that. So we were kind of on this hill. We had just glided from the hill south of us. And we had a decent setup. It wasn't crazy good. I think I had a double barrel, which ended up getting us a kill. But the biggest part here was that we knew we needed to build up for the zone. The zone was going to move north over this mountain. Again, moving over the mountains, which is kind of unfortunate for us. But since it's moving up, we were starting to build up because we kind of started to catch on like, guys, we really need to get up. Otherwise, there's going to be so many people low ground that we really can't get into the zone. And when we were doing that, we ended up getting into a fight. And Bumpa and I got kind of split. So I went up, I was going up above, and Bumpa was also going up above. But I think I like went too fast, or Bumpa went too slow, or something like that, and we ended up getting split. Bumpa ended up getting into the engagement first and then started to rotate. I got the kill. I was above him. We grouped up, but Bumpa was like probably 3 boxes ahead of me, and so we're going over the hill in this direction, just kind of like this. I think we ended up jumping on the hill at this point, rotating just kind of like just on the ground, and then finally we're ramping up, and again 3 boxes away, somebody splits. Typically, if Bumpa's ahead of him, I'm the guy coming behind him. I'm blocking everything off, and while I'm doing that, somebody snuck in like right here, just the same situation as before, and got Bumpa in the back. It was actually Imagine, and then I got a tag on him, but he was able to box up. So we just continue rotating over, and I think I eventually die to Punisher kills me with a rifle because I'm very low on mats at that point. So this is the aftermath of the fight between us and Envy in game 5. We just catch the aftermath, just the healing. But basically what we ended up doing is the same split that we talked about, where we go basement and doghouse and then try to get the rest of the buildings. This time we rushed towards brick because last game Envy stole it from us, and then on our way back to kind of leave Pleasant, Bumpa notices a llama at the end of soccer field at the same time as Envy did, but they had better position since they're on that west side by the treehouse. They had better position for it. They got it, but we fight over it and we come out on top because this time we did a much better job of supporting each other, and we did a lot of damage to one of the players at the start, so he couldn't support his teammate, and then we did a lot of damage to the other guy, so he had to go heal, and so on and so forth. So we basically forced a 2v1 in the majority of the fight. We spent a lot of time chasing down, and they did a very good job at like kind of misdirecting us and going one way and then going the other way. And so the fight took way longer than I think it should have after the great start we had. But we come out a little bit bruised. We end up getting healed up, and we end up rotating past the gas station towards Tilted, past soccer field, and onto a mountain goat somewhere in the end game. And we'll look at the end game. So in game 5, we ended up in this position. We had a little bit of a scrap by soccer field, but we ended up launching, I think, away, getting on this hill, and then playing the mountain goat. This is the game that Nick and Aiden went crazy in the big bonus. So we actually, I think they were around us a lot of the time, but we couldn't pay attention to them because there's a lot of teams around here. So what ended up costing us this game is Bumpa had a grappler, and there was a drop that went down right there, an airdrop. We went for it, he got it, he grappled back, but we decided for some reason that we needed to go back down. I don't remember what the item was, but apparently it was worth going back down for it, so we both went over here and ended up getting the drop, or whatever the item was, but then we got exploded to all hell. I think I took 1 damage, or one hit from the explodes, and then we ended up turtling, and the zone ended up going over this mountain. So we did okay. We were both together, finally, again, both together going into this rotate. But what ends up happening, I'll show you the clip of Nick, and we both kind of get this bug. Not saying that we died because of this. I think we died because we're just bad at rotating in the zone. There's always a lot of people with us, and we always get somebody sneaks into our build in this custom. This doesn't happen normally to us, but in these customs you have to be so diligent about blocking yourselves off and so on and so forth. So let's watch the clip, and we'll just talk about how the storm kind of, it was really weird in the custom. We're actually rotating directly under Nick here, and we both just for some reason are taking storm damage. You can actually see here Nick is clearly in the zone. He's not taking any damage, but suddenly while he's running straight for the next circle, he's out of the zone and taking damage. If you look at the radar, you can actually see there's a huge jump on the zone, just a sudden jump. We didn't pick up on how to avoid this early enough, but basically we both die here. The way to avoid this is, if this happens in future customs or whatever, is to just try to get as far into the center of the zone as possible, because there's like a delay. Like as soon as the next zone closes, it jumps ahead. I think they like messed up for some reason. There's a bug with like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it.
Replay from Ballatw. Drop it on down to 1. Quick swaps to those epic dual pistols. A nice shot on the Skatch. Did he find the second? Oh my goodness. Beautifully done. Winning that 1v2 with only 20.
Alright, so in game 6 we were really fired up and we want to get a lot of kills, so we just played really aggressively onto Envy after they crossed soccer like they normally do. We ended up fighting basement with a lot of good team fighting with both Bump and I, forcing 2v1s and such. But Bump ends up going down, I don't remember exactly how, and I clutched up with low mats and good aim. Unfortunately, I don't remember all the details, and all we have is this replay, so it still felt good. After this, I go on to try to get a third kill by psychoing onto Ghost, Saf, and Ghoul in Leaky, and that didn't go so well. I immediately scuffed a build, fell down 2 layers, and Saf easily bopped me from there. I landed directly on him and chunked him for like 80 damage, but it was easy work after I scuffed that build. Alright guys, that's a wrap for the grand finals. Let me know if you guys want me to do this for the qualifier games. I gotta go through and clip everything that I can, but the qualifier games we obviously played a little bit better, and they were less, it was a less harder lobby, but I can do the same thing for that. But I just want to quickly go over my 3 main lessons learned from playing the games themselves. I learned a lot of other stuff regardless, but early game kills are really valuable if you can get them, and they aren't completely RNG fights. Like, you don't want to take 50-50s, but if you get a good loadout, you should go push somebody in the early game. That's where you can get the kills that will make it easy for you to get that point threshold in the end game. In these stacked lobbies, you kind of require more high ground, right? Because every time we got end game, we got screwed because there's no high ground to beam people, so we couldn't find shots. We didn't have high ground to rotate with, which is very important with the glider redeploy, because the glider redeploy is kind of funneling people on to low ground in the same position, because they kind of all reset. They take high ground, they jump off, and they all go to low ground in the same position because of how small the circles are. And so it resets every time. There's all the people who are gliding in end up in very similar spots. Without high ground, you kind of end up in this position all the time. I feel like tarping from a higher up spot is probably way better than just gliding. As long as you're like unsafely tarping and not spending too many mats, you just kind of use one piece. It's probably better than gliding because you get up into different positions than the majority of the people who are rotating. So yeah, basically the moral of the story is get away from people. Don't go to the same positions that other people are going to end up being. Just get away from people. If you need to build up, do a couple 90s and then start tarping from there, go for it. And then just do a better job covering, because I think we died probably 2 or 3 times with somebody just slipping into our tarps or our snakes or whatever you want to call them. Just they slipped in there, got in behind us, and took a kill from us really easily. So we just got to do a way better job covering and staying close, tightly packed together so that we can cover efficiently. Guys, thank you so much for all the support I've been getting and all the kind words I have been getting about our performance at Twitchcon. It was such a blast, and if I got to meet any of you guys, it was awesome to meet you. Guys, if you liked the video, please subscribe, like the video, and follow me on Twitch, and then do all the things on social media as well, and I'll be back with more videos just like this.